fall. So here we go again. It's a race to cut ties. The mental hopscotch has got us feeling.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to World 101 Podcast. I'm your host, Eddie V. We're at the Chocolate Thunder, of course. Joining me is the Red Nordic himself, Big Papa, Mr. Larry Giver.
Why can't you be Australian? Then you could be Chocolate Thunder from Down Under.
I don't know, mate. No, I can't do I can't do Australian. I tried my best, mate, but I can't do it, mate. Oh, now
Go put a shrimp on the Barbie and get back when you get it right, damn it.
Now I just need to watch Crocodile Dundee and just see how terrible that movie was with him being in L.A. But everybody, it is E3. Yay!
It's a week where things happen and stuff is talked about.
Yes, there was a lot that was announced and showed. There's the PC gaming conference, which none of us seen because it was that boring. So we're not going to cover that at all. What we are going to cover is EA, Bethesda, Microsoft, Ubisoft, and Sony. We are going to talk a little bit about the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, the trailer that they showed. And plus, Nintendo do have more to show. So at the time of this recording, when you hear it, there'll be a lot of information out that's not in this episode. We might even touch on a little bit of the amiibos that they showed today and announced, that people kind of went crazy over, and they look really, really nice.
Oh no, we're going to talk about that.
But we're going to start with EA. And EA's presentation was hosted by Andrew Wilson and Peter Moore in London. So they kind of split it in two ways, with Andrew Wilson being in LA and Peter Moore being in London. And just to let everybody know, this is the day after the Orlando shooting at the that Pulse Club where they say 49 people died and 53 people were injured. So throughout the E3 conference, I think EA might have been late because I know at the time they were getting ready for their conference rehearsal, so they probably didn't have time to put on a rainbow ribbon. But everybody pretty much from Bethesda, even Nintendo, they all had a ribbon, and they also, was sending their sincere, love and support throughout the conference. So
not only that, but Reggie was saying too that Christina Grimmie, I think her name is, the one that was shot before and killed before the nightclub shooting, was supposed to be a guest at Nintendo's E3 booth this year too. Oh
yeah, he did mention that. And I kind of do like the fact that they actually took a moment of silence for it, and they faded out and just let it be black before they even got into the Zelda trailer. So, but we just wanted to announce that before anyone asks or anything. And if you're in Florida and you have been affected by this, we here at World 101 send our love and support and our thoughts. So if you hear this episode, we send our love and thoughts and prayers and everything else. You're awesome. To those families and friends who've been affected, stay strong. We really can't. We're so far away. That's not much that we could do, but yeah. So hopefully this episode makes you happy, makes you laugh, because there's going to be some jokes. There's going to be some cringe-worthy things that we're going to be talking about. But it's all fun, because it's E3, and E3 makes people happy and confused at certain times. So, but let's get into EA. So the first video they showed was Titanfall 2. They brought out Vince Zampella, who is the CEO of Respawn Entertainment. They talked about single player. The release date is October 28th for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. And you can sign up at Titanfall.com to get ready for the beta. Thoughts? Larry.
Couple mixed things. My first thought being how much I just don't care. Because I didn't care about the first Titanfall because it was all multiplayer, and I don't do a lot of online multiplayer, especially shooters. I just don't. It's not a thing for me. But the other thing that struck me is, really? You're going to start your story with the second game. That's going to drive my OCD fucking nuts. If I ever decide to get into this, it's going to drive me up a wall because the beginning of the story is not the beginning of the series. It's the second in the series, but it's the first of the story. And I'm like, the fuck is this shit? And not only that, I just get the terrible, terrible gut feeling that really the story is just not that well thought out. I can only fathom that they went, oh, let's put in a story because people said they wanted it, but we really just want to make another Titanfall game with lots of multiplayer. I can only fathom that it's going to feel really tacked on. I could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm not, but that's what my gut tells me on Titanfall 2.
I know I put this on Twitter that it feels like this is the American Gundam game that I think they're trying to make that people want.
Probably.
Yeah, because that Steel Battalion, that was garbage when that came out.
Shut the hell up! Steel Battalion was fucking awesome.
Not for the Kinect, not the Kinect version.
No, I'm talking about the 32 button controller, 3 pedal, setup on the original Xbox. That shit was cool.
Well, times have changed.
We don't talk about Kinect Steel Battalion. You shut up.
But it looks good. I'm interested. It is on my list for a game to get, but I'm definitely gonna wait for the reviews for this one. After they showed Titanfall 2, Peter Moore came out and talked about Madden 17, and then they started talking about esports and the Champions Series, and that's when I pretty much tuned out. I was just like, oh, nope, not for me.
Whenever Peter Moore shows up anymore, I just want to ask him, how's that Halo tattoo treating you? Is that still a thing for you?
How's
Did you remove that? Do you still have it?
How's that Grand Theft Auto 5, Grand Theft Auto 4 tattoo doing?
Yeah, that too. I want to know, You notice he never shows up in short sleeves, so nobody can ask him to pull his sleeve up.
Exactly.
But, yeah. I will say I was a little thrown at the esports competition thing. But I think maybe more of Microsoft's presentation on their tournament thing threw me, but we'll get to that. It just seemed to me that neither of them really wanted to touch on Madden. They wanted to make a big drive for FIFA, and I get it. FIFA's a global thing, but really E3, you're presenting stateside. You want to get people fucking fired up, and you're talking about, sports games, then why are you not talking about Madden? That's the big driver. That and, NBA, but, it's FIFA? Globally I get it. It's the big moneymaker globally, but stateside, it's growing stateside. I won't knock it, but I don't know, honestly, that EA's really got the market on it stateside. I think Konami does, if I'm not mistaken, with PS. Yeah.
They did. That was at E3 this year, but I haven't seen anything else about it. So that might be the only Konami game that's gonna be on console, for all I know. But everybody was kind of complaining about the esports thing, and it was just all the cheaters that's on the game. What they showed just felt so weird and kind of out of place. And I get what they're trying to do, to put $1 million on the line. They're going to try to make it big for next year, and get in that arena. But it's Madden, and I wasn't wowed by it. I'm just well, I'm checking out. Let me see what's on, something else to do.
Yeah. I mean, I give them credit for trying. Sony for a lot of years, whenever MLB The Show comes out, they've got a big contest for the first, 90 days or whatever it is the game's out that they run. And it's usually actually a pretty neat contest. I remember a number of years where it was pretty good. But yeah, I give them props for at least trying.
I wanted my triple play baseball. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
Anybody know what the hell happened to NCAA? Are they just giving up on that for football?
Yeah,
I know there was one.
Yeah, they stopped it because of that lawsuit.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
So
that's no more. Moving on for that, they teased us with Mass Effect Andromeda. Aaron Flynn, who's the general manager of BioWare, came to talk about the game, and they pretty much didn't show anything spectacular or anything new. I was just like, what was that?
I'm going to sound entirely pig-headed here, and I recognize that I am, at least when it comes to Mass Effect. I don't care. And I'm going to tell you why I don't care. I tried the first Mass Effect. I played it for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I gave it a solid go just from the start. Mm-hmm. That's kind of my theory, is that a game should be able to grab me within like the first 2 hours. If not, you're doing it wrong and I don't want to play you. But I played it for, that first hour and a half, 2 hours. And man, I could not get into it. The controls fucking killed me. It just felt all wrong. And everybody I've talked to is like, no, dude, you got to try the second one. It's way better. It's way better. I'm like, but I don't want to jump into the second one if I haven't played the fucking first one. Yeah. So at that point, I just managed to write off the whole series and go, fuck it, don't care.
Well, it's not bad. The first one feels like a beta test game. Like the whole game was still in beta. Number 2, they kind of, they improved upon that. And then 3, they really do a good job in 3. Like, all 3 games are really good. I know 1 is just like really sluggish, like very beta. But this Mass Effect Andromeda, I'm interested. They didn't give no date or any more information. That trailer was like pretty much didn't do anything for anyone. Like, it didn't even give me hype. I was just like, come on, y'all did this last year where y'all didn't show nothing that talked about the game. I want a level. I don't care if it's a CG trailer that, like everybody else was doing. Just show me something in the game that's worth wanting me to get hyped for. And I'm just not.
I know what you mean. I watched that video and it felt more like a developer diary video than really anything showcasing the game itself.
Oh, there's a game that there's a series that we're going to talk within this press conference that deals majorly with that.
But it's just, that video felt more like a developer diary. Like, it was talking about, with the designers and, the artists working on it. And, they're all like, we're making this enormous universe and it's big and expansive. Like, that's not what I came to E3 to fucking hear about. Right. I want you to talk to me. Show me a trailer for the game that tells me something about it. Not that you're making a big, pretty universe. That tells me nothing.
Right. And then we get into FIFA 17. I guess I thought it was called FIFA 17 The Journey, because now FIFA has a story mode and you play as the main character, Alex Hunter. The guy who acts like him came on, and for some unknown reason he sounded like he was doing a poetry slam kind of monologue. God, and I was just like, wait, what? Then Peter Moore talked about managers and people were booing them until this one man came out, Jose Moreno. He steps out. I don't know who he was, but they really pushed FIFA 17. I think they're going to do that also for esports, but they was really trying to push it and hype it, and I kind of spent a lot of time on it, and I was just I was confused and not entertained by any of it. I'm just like, what the world is this?
Yeah, EA's gotten really bad at trying to pimp out their sports games at their press conferences over the last few. Like, they have this thing where they feel compelled to put in a story mode now for all their fucking sports games. Like they were doing that for NCAA, years ago, and they started that with fucking NBA and NFL and all of that, and it's like, we have to put in a story mode where you can have a career in a camp. It's like, No, I'm pretty sure most of the people that picked this up just wanted to play the game. You know, it just, I don't see it going over well, but again, I'm not the target demographic on that. I will openly and freely admit that fact. I don't do sports games, but from my outside looking in opinion, it just seems like, why? Stop funneling your dev efforts into that and put it into, you know, the mechanics of the game itself. Don't force this story mode thing. They're not even forcing it on you, but they're putting it in there and going, we spent lots of time on this, but you probably won't care. So.
Yeah, pretty much. And I was just like, okay, and they kind of talked about the game as running on Frostbite engine. And pretty much everything that they're doing for their games is going to be running on that one engine, on Frostbite engine. And I'm just like, okay, that does nothing for me. I mean, there are some people who are hyped about it, but I think the presentation was just done poorly. Just like, let's just move on. And then EA Original, they talked about Unravel. They didn't talk about the sequel. They just, used Unravel as an example. And they introduced the game Faye. Patrick Soderlund, who was the EVP of EA Studios, he introduced Klaus Lingeret for Zoink Games in Gothenburg, Sweden, where he came out and talked about Faye, or Fee. And the way
I thought it was called Fee, but
it's probably Fee. Faye. I'm thinking of a music term, but Fee. Yeah, it's called Fee. And if you kind of notice, the E is small. They can't make it capital because of Fire Emblem.
No, they could, but I will say I think Fee was probably the one thing out of the EA show that really kind of perked my interest.
Yeah,
it's like, ooh, it's kind of like cute and pretty-ish, and I kind of want to play it. I'm like, oh, he's adorable, and it's got like music and foresty communication-y thing. I'm like, I want more of this. Show me more. I will be watching that. That has definitely got my attention.
It reminds me of Ori and the Blind Forest of got stuck in Metro Prime 2 Dark World. Like, if you look at the color palette of it being purple, black, and blue with some little orange to represent, like, fire or enemies, you will see the color palette and be like, goodness, this does look like Metroid Prime. Like, the character looks
I didn't get so much of that, but I think some of that has to do with the fact it has a lot more, like, that cel-shaded kind of flat look to it. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's what really staved it off from looking like that to me, but it definitely has those darker intonations to it, but it's not so much, purple for the sake of purple. Sometimes it was more like, here it is because it's actually nighttime in the forest kind of thing. And it looked right. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, it's definitely on my top list. Like, that's the one game I definitely took away from EA's conference that I want. And that I want and I'll support. The next game they showed after that, or announcement, I should say, was Star Wars, their universe. Jay Raymond, who's the general manager at Motive Studios, talked about the game, how DICE and her company, Motive, Respawn, Visceral, BioWare, Capital Games, are all working on Star Wars games for this, for EA, and that. Ooh, sorry about that. DICE and Motive, they're working on Battlefront content for 2017. And for some unknown reason, this felt like a DVD behind the scenes commentary kind of thrown together. Like, they didn't really show anything. So, me not being a big Star Wars fan, I kind of just like, I should play a drinking game right now or something, because this is nothing.
No, I agree with you. It really did look like a making of special that you find on a DVD extra somewhere. But, not that it was poorly put together, but they really didn't show much of anything at all. And you're right. My other complaint is, we're going to be adding all this stuff to Star Wars Battlefront. And I'm just like, why wasn't it there to start with? Because it felt a little, anemic when it came out last year.
Right. And I know Amy Hennig, or the one lady who left Naughty Dog. I feel like she's going to turn one of the Star Wars games into Uncharted. I'm just like, oh no, this is not going to be good at all. I mean, people will buy into it, but I'm just like, oh no.
It could be if it's done right.
It's going to be.
I can kind of picture it in my head.
It's going to be longer than what it needs to be. Like, it's going to be like, okay, you could have took these levels out the game and ended this game, but you just dragged it out for no apparent reason. That's how I feel like it's going to be. But
We'll see when it comes around.
I don't know nothing because you just had developers talking about the game, so you didn't show anything. So, moving on to their final game was Battlefield 1, and Patrick Bach, who's the general manager at DICE, came out to talk about this game. He showed the trailer and then cut it off, did some talking, and then showed the same trailer again with more footage. And this was the stupidest question out of all of E3. Did you all see the Battlefield trailer that came out last week? No. If you haven't been following the internet for video game news, Battlefield kind of got about 2 or 3 million views, and Call of Duty Infinite Space got like a lot of down views, like people didn't really like
downvotes.
Yeah. People, if you reported that our showing of this trailer was very successful, and you're EA and you did this news story way before before this E3 conference, why would you ask a stupid question like that? We all knew, we all seen it. Like, they really didn't show nothing new or surprising. Like, whatever they show is what the trailer they use kind of for E3.
Yeah.
They talked about the destruction and how weather plays into the level. Talked about vehicles. Jamie Foxx and Zac Efron was there for no real reason. They talked about 64 player battle. It's coming out for Xbox One, PS4, PC, the usuals. October 21st worldwide. I don't know. I gave up on the whole EA conference. I just was so done with it.
I will say this for the Battlefield 1 thing. Yay for let's do World War I again. Everything after that's felt a little burned out, save for maybe Vietnam. There's really only been a couple of games ballsy enough to touch on that. But, so much of, any historical shooter, which there hasn't been a lot of in the last 5, 6, 7 years, really, but so many of them were just like going for World War II as the default because everyone likes killing a Nazi, but, no, everything else just kind of got left behind, especially World War I. I'm like, there's a lot of really rich material for you to explore there, and not to sound like I'm making light of World War I, right. But, it strikes me that nobody ever really got into that, at all in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
It's been so minimal. But in any case, that's my weird thing.
I'm kind of shocked they didn't show NHL 17 or an NBA Live 17. Like, they didn't. Those are other two sports games they did not talk about. In fact, they didn't even talk about the golf game.
Yeah, it's like you guys have a annual stable of these franchises, and I'm with you. I'm very shocked that they didn't talk about that. Like they could have at least thrown together a sizzle reel and talked about EA, for EA Sports, and it's like Madden and NFL and NHL and NBA, and run through the sizzle reel. But the only sports game they talked about was FIFA
and Madden. Those are the only two they introduced. Like, even UFC didn't even make an appearance. What the heck was that all about? Just like,
is the UFC thing really doing anything for them? Like, who's buying that?
I mean, some people brought it, but Yeah. No one, it was a weird conference. What would you give it, Larry?
Mediocre at best.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, really the only thing that grabbed me and made me go, ooh, pretty, was Fee. You know, other than that, I was just like, oh, it's another thing I don't care about. You know, it makes me mourn for the days when, you know, EA had a great roster coming, you know, and they were really pushing new IEs or IPs. You know,
Yeah.
I honestly, my favorite year for EA was the year that we got Dead Space, Mirror's Edge, and oh damn it, what's the other one? Army of Two. You know, all in one run, all in the same year from EA.
Right.
That was the year that it was like, you know, EA's fucking on it, cool as shit. You know, and it just doesn't feel like EA is really pushing for the new IPs anymore. You know, even not talking about Mirror's Edge at all either. You know,
But because it came out already.
I know it's out, but it didn't feel like they really trumpeted it when it came out. It's like this would have been a great opportunity to just, you know, give it a little bitty bump again and, you know, say, and hey, you know, you all were waiting for this. It's out now. Check it out. Here's Mirror's Edge, or even say, hey, we're running a sale on it on EA Origin.
Right.
You know, do something to bump it, because it didn't feel like it got much when it came out. It was very unceremonious, it felt like.
And they really didn't talk about no DLC for this conference, which was the first. And they kept it under an hour. I was just like, oh, okay. Which they actually, to note, all 5 conferences that they showed was really under an hour, which is good. For me, I give it a C-. I thought Titanfall 2 and Fee was their like best strong titles, and everything else just fell from the wayside. I was just like, well, I could eat a hamburger from McDonald's or something and be more satisfied. Like at one point, I was ready to kill on my Nintendo Wii U or my 3DS, anything Nintendo related, and just start playing that because I was kind of done and over it with EA. But yeah, I feel like a C- was good enough. I mean, they kept it under an hour. They had some entertaining stuff. If they would have showed more, like game trailer, instead of like developer behind the scene talk, I think it would have been a good conference. But other than that, it was just bland. It was just like, oh, last year I got the Smash tournament and I got the Ryu review, even with the leak, and that broke the internet. Heck, I got Mother Beginners, or like Mother 1, Earthbound Beginners. Like Sunday for E3 was popping last year, even with Bethesda's first showing. It was a really good E3. This one was just like, oh, that's not a good way to start off. Yeah,
speaking of Bethesda's first showing, let's talk about another thing that was just underwhelming. Was fucking Bethesda's show. Oh my god, so bored.
Well, this is the thing with Bethesda, and that is our next conference we're going to talk about. Bethesda felt like this is the PC gaming show, but we want to hide it with some consoles news, just in case people get, questionable about it, so it doesn't bore players and stuff. The first thing they started off was Quake Challenge. They did a CG trailer of it, just and some voiceover, kind of trying to announce that Quake is back to its tournament style, and it's only for PC. And then they said they was going to talk more about the game for QuakeCon in August. I just don't give a care. I tried to play Quake on PS2, and it was one of the most boring games I ever played.
Well, PS2 isn't really a great way or place to play Quake. And again, speaking as somebody that's not big on multiplayer shooters, especially online, I won't knock Quake by any stretch. Quake was a definitive trendsetter when it comes to that genre. And it's not that it's a terrible game. I mean, I've had a little bit of fun playing it with a few people that I know, but jumping on and getting really competitive with it, I can't do. I can't. But, I can certainly look at it and go, they're doing some things, and it's kind of cool. And, at least give them credit where credit's due, because, that's a series that, considering there is no single player, you have to innovate your multiplayer every single time while still staying somewhat true to the original source, and striking that balance is not easy. I can't imagine that being easy at all. So all credit to them for managing to do that, to be able to come out every so often and really keep it fresh, but not deviate too far from, from the source.
Well, Yu-Gi-Oh! Elder Scrolls Legend, what's the next game that they announced? And when I seen that trailer, I was just like, I want to scream Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now. It's time to duel, which is a strategy card-based game. And I was just like, what the world is this? And they talk all about that, and I was just like, let me move on.
I don't know, it looked okay. It certainly wasn't the worst thing that I've seen all week. I do think that we are really going to hit a point of oversaturation of card games going on. We've got Hearthstone, which really kind of jump-started the whole thing of recent. Mm-hmm. On top of that, the Elder Scrolls 1, and now I really think that, honestly, it's going to get outdone when Gwent comes out, as its own standalone game. That's a big fucking thing, but we'll get into that later. Yes. But I really think that this is going to have a hard time carving out enough of a piece of the market to really justify its existence. I think it's bad timing, and I don't know if they knew that Gwent was coming or not, but I can only imagine either A, if they knew it was coming, whoever was in charge was an idiot for trying to push this any further. If they didn't know Gwent was coming, my condolences to them, because Gwent's just going to tank this thing, because as much as, The Witcher 3 did phenomenally,
yes,
when it came out last year, one of the biggest things to come out of that was that little card game buried in there that everyone went nuts for, and now having it on tap, on demand, it's going to be even more so, and it's just going to bury everything else. I think Hearthstone will stay alive, because Hearthstone has figured out how to start doing seasons and cycles and, expansion packs and all of that. And they've learned how to do it very competently, mostly pretty organically. And I'm impressed that they didn't take direct cues from Magic the Gathering. There are some things where you're like, I can see the resemblance, but it's not an exact copy. So cool.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I didn't care about it. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's pretty much all. Moving on from that, they gave Fallout 4 updates. They're introducing contraptions next week.
That's not an update. That's bullshit.
Well, they treating it as an update. Well, they're bringing contraptions.
Well, they're wrong.
They're bringing contraptions next week. They showed the trailer about that. Fallout Shelter Quest and PC versions is coming out in July. And Nuka World is in August of this year. I believe that's the next season pass DLC for the game. After that, they talked about Skyrim Remastered, which I really don't care. Any thoughts about that? They upped the graphics and added mods. That was pretty much it.
They got it about half right. I'm so exhausted with remasters and HD updates and everything. It's like, oh my god, seriously. It was fine the first time. Just let me enjoy the experience as it was and remember it fondly. It just, from a couple years ago to now, it's too soon. It's one thing when Nintendo does it, because they pulled out, like Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and that was from, how many fucking years ago? 15? Yeah. Something like that in the wheelhouse? A decade and a half. That's a sufficient amount of time that something might merit an update. But let's look at where the technology is now versus when Skyrim first came out. Yeah, it's an improvement. Is it enough of an improvement to justify me spending another $60? Fuck no. No!
Well, for PlayStation
Stop
owners,
encouraging this behavior.
I mean, for PlayStation owners, it's a good deal because they didn't get half of the content that came out for the 360, and they had so many bugs and problems that they had to work on. They kind of let the PlayStation 3 version to die. It's Bayonetta 1 all over again.
Yeah. That being said, the one thing that I do think they really that is good about this is that you'll be able to play the mods on console. It's high time, and it's been high time that things like mod content gets to make its way freely onto console editions instead of being relegated strictly to PC stuff. There's a lot of really cool shit that people are doing out there on PC, and I think it's brilliant to finally be able to, make a mod on PC, put it out there, but be able to share that with the console audience because they want to play it. And I'm going to make a big generalization here, and you can probably kick me in the face if I'm wrong, and I might be, but I'm going to say it anyways. My impression is this. The people playing on PC get it on PC for a couple reasons. One, because, they're PC nuts and that's what they do. But two, that they like to dig more into their game and make those mods and create shit than those of us on console. I buy a game on console, I'm not going to lie. I don't want to map make and, mod, and I want to play my game.
Right.
That's what I want to do. Now, that being said, if somebody's willing to make more content and put it out there and, and by way of mods, I would love to have access to that. But I don't want to play it on a PC. I don't like the PC setup. It's not that I have anything against it. It's just not my personal preference. I like to plunk down with a controller in my hand, and just because I make that decision doesn't mean I should be excluded from a fuck ton of user-generated content. Just because y'all can't get your shit together, or more specifically, I assume, especially on the Xbox side, that it has to do with, Microsoft and their obscene, formerly obscene, I think it's lightened up a lot in the last few years, methods of going through for, updates and whatnot and patches for stuff coming through on Xbox Live. Lord only knows, because I can think of a few games that, patches and updates and DLCs took for fucking ever just because Microsoft was holding it up with their policies. But, it sounds like Microsoft is looking to let up on that a lot too. But we'll get into that when we get into their conference because they're doing a smart thing.
Which we'll talk about. Prey is coming out next year, and
that's bullshit.
Only thing I gotta say, I think this is a horrible idea. I think it's probably one of the worst games, worst ideas of E3. Why?
Prey? Bullshit.
Yeah. Why would you want to reboot a game that only got one? Like, it only got one game. Okay, yeah, it didn't. It had its problems, and it sold whatever it sold. But I'm like, if you're gonna say this is a psychological thriller, and then you show it, and then it's just like, oh, we're starting all over again. I mean, you can't start all over again when you haven't even did a sequel. Like, Prey hasn't even been out for that long. Prey came out like in 2006. So it's only been 10 years, but you didn't do nothing. You didn't make a sequel within those 10 years. You didn't make no DLC or anything. I mean, so I literally was just like, I actually told people that I'm lost. I don't know what this is. I don't know why they call it Prey, but this is stupid.
I'm with you because what they showed, like before they put up the title card, I'm like, I can only imagine that the title card is going to pop up and it's going to say fucking Groundhog's Day. That's what it looks like from the first like 60 seconds of that trailer. But then they put up Prey. I'm like, this has to be just like a new series, and somebody wants you to forget that someone already had a game called Prey 10 years ago. Because I played Prey, and for the record, I liked Prey. But I'm watching this, I'm like, how does this have anything to do with that? I couldn't draw a connection. If you gave me a paper and a marker, I couldn't do it. I'm just like, how does this relate to that? Because there is exactly zero anything in common from what I'm seeing here.
Because they whitewashed
this looks like
character.
A new series.
Like, okay, the main character in Prey was a Native American, so now you whitewash him with some experiment white dude? Like, really?
This is like they tried to take Prey, the original, whitewash it, and then mix it in with a little bit of Portal, just because they know that Portal fell. It didn't feel like Prey at all.
I was completely lost. I mean, Just Dance 17, when we get to Ubisoft, may had a weird introduction, but Prey just takes the, I think, worst showcase, and it just takes the worst game of E3 for me. It is stupid. The presentation was dumb. I don't know why they whitewashed the main character. It's garbage to me.
I'm off board. Like, I was all excited to hear that, Prey might be coming back, and I'm like, cool, I'm down with that. And then I saw it, and I'm like, no, never mind, you can keep it.
So they talked more about Doom, and Doom Snap Mac is getting free updates. And if anyone who owns Xbox One, PS4, and I believe a PC, you can try the first level of Doom if you haven't purchased the game, which is kind of interesting. I'm not going to download it because I said I was going to buy the game, but that's pretty much all it was.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was a smart thing for them to talk about it. They touched on it a little. They didn't drag it out. They said, hey, this is a thing. We just put it out. For those of you that haven't, we want you guys to be able to sample it a little bit. So here you go. Here's a free snippet. And then they said, for those of you that have gotten into it, we're making some improvements. Here's what you can expect in the very near future. And then moved on. And that's a really smart thing to do for anybody at E3 that's got a game that just came out.
Right.
Touch on it. Just touch on it. Give it like 60 to 120 seconds, no more, no less, and move on. And that's a smart thing to do.
And that's
it's
what
a
EA
great way to get a
with,
bump for your sales.
Yeah, and that's what EA could have did with Mirror's Edge. That's all we was asking for.
Exactly. That would have been a smart thing for them to do, but what are you going to do?
After that, they introduced Elder Scrolls Online, and the guy, Matt Forward, who's the game director, came out, and I don't know who was in the crowd, like in the front. I'm thinking it's developers, and we'll probably address this at the end, but they was rooting and hollering and just like, yeah. And someone said, thank you. I was just like, huh? They introduced Dark Brotherhood and One Tomorrow, which is opens the entire game after the tutorial, and it's coming this fall. He talked about 7 million players are on the game, which is pretty much PC players, because I don't know anybody who bought it on console.
I think I don't know anybody that bought it on console either. I know a few people that were interested, but never got that far. But I will say I think what they showed, and again, speaking of someone that doesn't do a whole lot of online multiplayer, and that includes MMOs, because I get sucked into them horribly, and I learned my lesson between MapleStory and Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2 on GameCube back in the day. But in any case, I thought it was interesting, kind of listening, again, as outside looking in, going, oh, that's neat, where they're making it so that you can, they're changing the way that missions and, level caps work and all that, or level requirements work, so that you can kind of jump in with your friends, no matter where you're at versus where they're at, and, I was like, good for them. That's a really good way to be able to make it easier for new people to continue to come into your game. Because at this point, it's been out long enough that if anyone's picking it up, they're buying it because their friend has it and they want to play with their friend.
Yeah, and then they brought up Bethesda VR, which they have at the show. They talked about Doom and Fallout 4 VR is coming to the HTC Vive in 2017. And any thoughts? Because I can move on from that. I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah, just don't care. I'm surprised that, they're talking about the HTC Vive is their, go-to choice for VR rather than either Oculus or PlayStation VR. Those two seem like they're going to be the big box names that are really competing for dominance, and I don't know if one or both will survive, but I'm getting a weird feeling that the HTC Vive or whatever it was is going to be left as the outlier in the upcoming VR platform war. I can't even call it a console.
No,
maybe it's just yeah, that sounds about right. But I'm curious to see how this all shakes out.
Well, we'll see. And they ended their conference with Dishonored 2. They showed a trailer, talked about the gameplay, and showed some of the features and some of the levels and the things that you'll do. You could play as the protagonist from the first game or the queen's daughter that got kidnapped in the first game. You can play as her. They show mostly her gameplay style than anything else. Dishonored 2, I took away that's probably my must play, or like the title on my list that I would say that I would get out of the whole Bethesda conference. I mean, Doom is another one, but I had already planned on getting Doom. I'm just waiting for me to get done with other games before I get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna freely admit I need to play the first Dishonored. It looked interesting. Mm-hmm. I just didn't really have time and access to it when it came out, but I remember looking at it going, that looks neat, and I would probably enjoy that, but I'm busy with other shit right now, and I just never went back to pick it up and play it. But when I saw the second one looked intriguing, like I sat there and I watched it and thought, I would probably enjoy playing this, but I don't want to jump into that second one without having even touched the first. So I'll probably find the first one in a $5 bin somewhere at a used store and pick it up at some point and play it. But
yeah,
so there's that.
So I gave the Bethesda conference a B-. Dishonored 2 looks good. That was like kind of on my list. It wasn't boring as EA, so that's why I kind of rated it a little bit higher. They had some people who were passionate about their games that came up and introduced them. Like, it flowed very well, but Prey really hurt it, in my opinion. Quake Challenge, I didn't care. And much of Fallout and Elder Scrolls, I just didn't care neither. But B-, I feel like that was fitting.
I think it wasn't bad. It had its pros and cons definitively. The pros, like you said, is that the presentation flowed well. They had, confident people up on stage. But I think the problem was that they were trying to over-present what they actually had. Mm-hmm. Like, the biggest perpetrator of this is the Fallout, content coming out. They're like, we got big things coming for Fallout. Here's some workshop packs that you probably don't care about. Like, this is not exciting. They did have a couple things, where, the announcement is an upgrade to an existing game was good, like the Elder Scrolls Online thing. But, to me, the remaster for Elder Scroll or for Skyrim was kind of like meh, but I can see where you're coming from, so I'll qualify that as a mixed bag. I hadn't really thought about it that way until now, but I'm still of the mindset that the HD remaster thing, not just them, but so many that have happened in the last 5-6 years just didn't need to.
Right.
But in any,
another mediocre from you.
Yeah. for different reasons, but yes, the flow and the presentation was good. The product that they were presenting was less than impressive for me.
So we're going to move on to day 2, which is they opened the show up with Microsoft, and Microsoft showed off the Xbox Slim, even though it got leaked. They're talking about all the features that's in it. That is 40% smaller than the regular one. It's white. The new controller, 2 terabyte. It goes up to 2 terabyte. It seems now that there's like 4 different versions of them. So there is a 500 gigabyte, and then the elite one is kind of the 2 terabyte one. It's coming out as $299, and then I believe $499 is the 2 terabyte one. And I believe it's supposed to be coming out in August. I already own the Xbox One, so I really don't care. It looks nice. They also got a feature where you could custom make your controller, which goes around for $80 to $90. So,
if having your own color scheme is that important to you, more power to you. It's nifty, but I think it costs too damn much.
Yeah. Where the Gears of War 4 controller that they also introduced in the conference, the Elite controller is $200.
Yeah, about that. No. Mm-hmm. So, but I will say, it's not a bad price point. The smaller, it's sizably smaller than the first round of Xbox Ones that came out. The integrated power supply is not a bad thing. It's always nice when that's built into the system instead of having a brick attached to a cord that you could use as a fucking murder weapon. Here's looking at you, Xbox 360.
The Xbox One have it too, so don't worry.
Oh, dude, I remember when the 360 came out, I was working in the video game store and we unplugged it, and that was the first thing we all thought when we saw that cord. It's like, murder weapon. So murder weapon. But, yeah. It's nice. I was appreciative of that when I always appreciate that. It helps declutter things behind my entertainment stand. That being said, it looks pretty. It doesn't look overwhelming. Smaller is nicer. It plays better with things on my stand and limited shelf space and all that. But I will say too, yay for improved range on the controller. But I'm sitting here thinking, who's having problems with that? Like, seriously, how far away from the TV are you fucking sitting that that's a problem?
Right.
I don't get it. Back in the day when you were corded and you got 8 feet of cord and, maybe that worked for you, maybe it didn't, depending on your living room. But, now with the Bluetooth controllers, man, the range on those things is pretty damn good. Why? Why was this a thing? I mean, sure it's there and it's no extra charge to you. Just like, who complained about that? That had to be a footnote. But
who knows?
That's weird to me.
So the first game they introduced was Gears of War 4, which is coming out October 11th. Really good presentation. I do like it. I still need to beat 2 and 3, but it's on my top list of games to get. Like, I'm going to get Gears of War 4. I spoke to Deuce from Johnny and Deuce, the Happy Hour podcast with Johnny and Deuce. I spoke to him, be like, we're doing Gears of War 4 this year, and I also told my friend, I'm like, yeah, we're doing Gears 4 this year because it looks good.
I will say I'm not into the Gear series, but watching the presentation, it looks sharp. So that it wasn't a bad unveil. It looks pretty. It's still not my thing, but I can appreciate it. I'll put it like that. I'm not knocking it by any stretch. It certainly seems a long ways from the the heyday of Gears of War of like 1 and 2, and rah, Bolt, Space Marine, blah blah blah. It looks like they've put some actual decent thought into the characters, and maybe there's a good story in there somewhere that I might care about, but I probably won't play it. It's just not my thing, but I can at least appreciate it.
Right. After that, Killer Instinct followed. They're bringing General Ram into the series, and this week you could play it for free. June 13th to June 20th. That's what they had on their screen. Moving on from that, because I don't know if you got anything to say about Killer Instinct. It was just more character reveal.
I will say that I know some people that are really going to enjoy it. I enjoy actually watching the tournaments for Killer Instinct.
Yeah,
when I catch them here and there. I'm no good at it, but I like watching it played at a very highly competitive level. It's cool to watch that shit, and what was it? A couple months ago, earlier this year, whatever it was, I got myself hooked on watching a good mess of Killer Instinct tournament stuff that was really fun, and I was just like, wow, it's impressive, it's good shit. So I'll be curious to see, what happens with some of the new characters in the new season of Killer Instinct, and see who rises to the top, and see what it does for the competitive scene.
Right.
I think it's a great way to actually keep that competitive scene fresh too. That's a brilliant way to do that, in seasons, and to constantly have that rotation of characters. So,
and I do want to mention that Microsoft is doing cross-play, but what their version is that if you buy the digital game on either Windows 10 or Xbox One, you could play on either system, and they'll pick off where you left off. So, or you could play other players who own the game. So if you're playing on Xbox One and they're playing on Windows 10, you could play against them. Now, it's only the digital version. It's not the physical copy. It has to be the digital version. So, once you buy that copy, you can play it on both systems, or both platforms, I should say.
I will say I think that's the first argument that I've really heard for buying a full game, that I can have a physical copy of. That's the first argument that I've heard for buying the digital version instead that really made sense to me. That's a fucking smart move. It really is. It's like, we're not going to charge any less because it's digital, but at least, if you've got both of these platforms and you move between the two of them, which I suspect a fair amount of people do, that's a really smart thing. It does make me wonder how long until they make it so that the PC disc works in an Xbox One or vice versa. They've got this platform. I'm sure they could pull it off somehow. But at least good for them. They figured out how to break the wall down, as far as making me want a digital copy of something that I could have bought a physical copy of.
Well, it's because those games are going under your Xbox Live account. Since it's shared between the two systems, or two platforms, I should say, physical wouldn't be needed, so you wouldn't have to buy two physical copies. Like, you wouldn't have to buy it for.
Right.
Sorry about that. You wouldn't have to buy it for PC and then go to another store to buy the console version. They just figured, like, if you pay the $60 or whatever, you could put it on both systems. And I think they're doing it now for all their games that they're releasing. Because Forza Horizon 3, which comes out September 27th, I think that might be that, or Recore might be the first one. But Forza Horizon 3 looks beautiful. It's taking place in Australia. And I think this is going to be the first Forza game that I get into. It looks really, really good.
It does look very pretty, and when it comes to racing games, I like the arcadey racers. You're going to think me stupid for it, but I actually really enjoy, some of the old Ridge Racers.
Yeah.
I want to pick a car, pick a track, and go fast.
Right.
Forza to me has always kind of been the Microsoft equivalent or answer to, Gran Turismo, which is very detailed, in-depth racing simulator instead. And it's not my cup of tea. I will say I think there may be a Forza game in the near future making its way into my household. My wife was watching it too, and she's like, "That looks pretty neat." I said, "Well, I could probably find one of the first Forza Horizon for you at least,
right.
For a couple bucks in the used game store. I'll pick it up and you can dink around with it if you like it. We'll go from there. But at least give her something to chew around with." But she saw it and she was interested. She's like, "That looks like fun." And it's a weird thing. My wife likes video games. A lot of the stuff that I'm into, she likes, but she likes watching me play them rather than playing them herself.
Right.
But, so for her to say, "I want to play that," it really does speak to it. So.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It looks beautiful. I like how they're changing the game, changing all the cars that you could use, or vehicles, I should say, that you could use in the game. So it looks fun. I can't wait for it. Recore comes out September 13th. That's the game.
Oh my God, Recore!
That's the
it
game.
Looks so good.
That's with the X Retro Studio and Kenji Inafune. This trailer that they show introduced the characters and what each of them could do. It looks a hit. I would say it looks like a Capcom Mega Man game in a way, the feel of it. But it's the one game that it feels like Kenji Inafune's thought of Japanese game design, and those X-Retro guys just work so well together to get it down packed to deliver an experience that might be one of the funnest indie games that comes out. It's definitely a one day download for me. Like I definitely have to have this game.
I was glad to see that it's dated and it's coming out this year for one. Two, and riddle me this, and I could just be because of the way that I watched the conference. Did they have an actual gameplay demo at all of Recore, or did they just show the trailer?
They just showed
because
the trailer.
I was watching it, on YouTube. I didn't catch the live stream, and like right after the trailer, there was a commercial on YouTube, and then I was into Final Fantasy 15, going, "The fuck's going on?" Because this doesn't look like Recore. And so I somehow missed like the introduction into Final Fantasy 15. Not that I cared. I was just really hoping that I was going to see some gameplay on Recore.
It does have gameplay. They'll introduce the character and they'll show what that character could do, like the fighting and the jumping, and how some of the levels look and how you fight the enemies and stuff.
More specifically, I was hoping to see like that was one where I did want to see a live demo.
Like a live demo, yeah.
Yeah.
Which happened for, a lot of the indie games that they had for it, they did not show like demos for it. Maybe besides we have concerns. That's a podcast. We Happy People. They had some kind of gameplay, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Final Fantasy 15 looks impressive. That frame rate looks terrible. I don't know if it's the stream or what, but it looks horrible on Xbox One and on PS4. That frame rate for Final Fantasy 15, at some of the parts, I was just like, ooh, this doesn't look good. This doesn't look like what your Square presentation was for this game. So I'm kind of concerned, but, it's a game that I'm going to get on both systems. But I got very worried, and I'm just like, this doesn't look right with this frame rate. Like, it drops, like, big time, like, slow down. It's in, and I'm like, ooh.
That didn't even, register for me. All I could think was watching that going, man, what happened to turn-based Final Fantasy? Like, I'm just like, I remember Final Fantasy 7 and 8, and those were big games, but it was turn-based, and you could, these were games where you could kind of sit back and relax and play them, but they still felt grand and epic and intense all at the same time. You know, I still have some appreciation for the concept of turn-based, where, you know, I can, dear God, this will speak to it exactly. This was one of them. Back on the PlayStation 1, and, you know, back in the heyday of third-party controllers, you know, where it wasn't just the third-party controller was the junky one, but third-party controllers would, like, do neat, gimmicky shit. And one of the ones that came out was a one-handed RPG controller for the PlayStation 1. Like, it had the D-pad in the middle and the X and the circle button, you know, on the top, and it was ambidextrous too. And your triangle and your square button were, you know, located on the bottom by your index finger with an easy reach, like triggers, basically.
Yes.
You know, and everything else was kind of laid out, like the L1 and the R1 and the L2 and the R2 were laid out, you know, and the start and select were kind of in a set of rows, you know, underneath the D-pad. And it was really cool. And I was like, you know, that was back in the day when I was really sitting back and enjoying turn-based RPGs still, because I could totally just lay in bed and be really a super lazy asshole and play this game one-handed, because it wasn't a big action-driven, but the story was sweeping enough, and, you know, there were fights and battles that I still felt, you know, intensely engaged in without it being an action RPG. You know, I'm like, why suddenly is it so bad to have a turn-based RPG on a console? When did that become fucking taboo?
I think once the RPGs became more movie experience in the CG trailers, it turned.
That's me just reminiscing at this point, but, you know, that was the thought that went through my head when I saw that. You know, it is pretty, and, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just stick in the mud, but there you go. That's what I thought about when I saw that trailer. That, and wishing that they hadn't have skipped over and, you know, had actually given me a live demo of ReCore instead right after. But
right.
Damn it, I want more ReCore. So.
And then they showed Battlefield 1, EA assets, and all that stuff. So we're going to skip that one because we already talked about it. Xbox Live features, they mentioned about having your club, being able to find people easier. Those features.
I think Clubs is funny because Clubs, I think, is taking a direct cue from what Nintendo has done with their with the Mi Plaza and all that on the Wii U. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that's funny. And it's not a bad thing. It's, you know, and they may have aped it, but truthfully, they might actually end up, and probably will end up, doing it better. But, you know, I just thought, I've seen that somewhere.
They did mention tournaments that you could set up and be able to compete with friends and stuff. But that was just, they had like 3 features and then they moved on. Minecraft was next. They talked about updates and what they're bringing on the tablets and everything first, and then next year they'll do consoles. I don't know if you have anything to say about that, because I don't. It's Minecraft.
I do think that I think their end goal is ambitious, and I respect it, is that they want all the different platforms of Minecraft to be able to play with each other.
Right.
I think that's cool. I really do. You know, I think what they've got going is a good start. It's not super ambitious what they have going as the first update, but again, you know, when you're trying to tackle a problem that big, start with the easy things so you feel like you've accomplished something. You know, they're unifying, you know, 2 platforms that are already under the Microsoft heading, you know, Windows and Xbox, and then dragging in Android and on the iPad side of things as well.
Right.
And so that's not a bad achievement, but it's not a big one. You know, when Minecraft on my Xbox One or my Xbox 360 plays with Minecraft on the PS4 and Minecraft on the Wii U, and, you know, we're all playing on different systems, but we're all playing together, then I'll sound the trumpets.
Well, Microsoft did offer that, so we shall see sometime in the future. Inside was their second indie game that they showed. They didn't show no gameplay. They just did different shots. I believe it's June 28th. I believe it's this month that it's coming out, like at the end of the month. It's from the creators of Limbo, and it does look good. We'll find out more, maybe.
It's an automatic buy just because the fine Limbo folks made it. Yeah, because Limbo is fucking awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up Inside because it looks more. The story for Inside looks more interesting. I'm not saying that Limbo doesn't look interesting because Limbo looks really good, but I think Inside looks a little bit more detailed.
Did you never play Limbo?
No, I haven't.
Really?
Yes.
Oh.
And isn't it? I think it's on Wii U.
No, it was 360 live arcade only.
Okay, because I know it's on Xbox One.
Yeah, they just get your hands on Limbo, dude. Seriously.
Okay.
Go get your hands on Limbo. It's very muted and creepy and.
But I love the monochrome art style to it. It looks beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
Like they really did a good job. I like that.
They did. There's a lot of trial and error in it, but it's enjoyable. And for as much as it's really black and white and gray, it's very graphically violent, or not even violent so much as messed up.
So surprisingly, we got to the halfway point of the conference, and they brought ID at Xbox. They did their little montage. So they show Cuphead, Outlast 2.
Fuck yes!
Cuphead looks beautiful, like wonderful. Like they're actually adding levels to that game and not just boss fights. So that one
is so sexy. I want to put my dick in it.
It's coming out this fall. They didn't give a date, but they said this fall. Outlast 2, Deliver Us the Moon, Flint Hook, Far, Slime Pincher, Shadow Tactics, Figment, The Culling, For the King, Beacon, Stardew Valley, which is going to be huge for Xbox One. When they showed that, I'm like, oh, that's huge for Xbox One. Like, really good that Microsoft snagged that. Hand of Fate 2, Below, Raiders, Bloodstain, Yooka-Laylee, and Everspace. So they did a montage of it, so you can see how those games look if you watch the conference. Of course, the Cuphead for me is the top one. Bloodstain and Yooka-Laylee. Stardew Valley, I probably will play on Xbox One. I'm hearing good things for it. But there was a lot of good indie stuff that they had for ID at Xbox. I'm really interested.
I really enjoy seeing Microsoft push themselves on the indie side of things, the arcade kind of side of things.
Yes.
You know, honestly, that's why I got a 360 all them years ago. It wasn't for any big AAA title. I bought my 360 so I could play Castle Crashers. I bought a $200 system so I could play a $15 game. And I never looked back. And honestly, I've probably spent way more money on live arcade games, you know, little $5, $10, $15 games than I ever did on the big budget stuff.
Right.
You know, because those were the ones that were super exciting to me. You know, stuff like Explosion Man and Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet, which I've been playing this week, and maybe we'll get around to that. But, you know, things like that. I fell in love with those little experiences. You know, they had so much more love and heart and expression to them.
Right.
Than the big box games did.
And what's funny is that you did that for on Xbox 360. It's kind of the same thing that I did on Wii. I mean, yes, I have Virtual Console, but I'm like, I brought us a lot of the WiiWare games on. I mean, my Wii library was already packed full with great games.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm like, but Contra Rebirth, oh my goodness, that game is ridiculously fun. It gives me a good challenge.
You better say Bit Trip, fool.
Oh!
You can't talk about WiiWare without Bit Trip. Oh my God!
You know that I had to have that.
So I love Bit Trip.
I got that one, and I got the spaceship one, like a 2D shoot 'em up kind. It was like R-Type kind of game, and that one is great too.
Oh, dude, the whole series was so good.
There was a Goo one, World of Goo. Excellent title. Oh yes, I'm mad that it didn't sell well. But they said it did do good on Wii, and on PC. But excellent title. If you still own the Wii, or if you could get your hands on World of Goo,
get it on Wii U. You still do the Wii Shop from your Wii U.
I recommend everyone get that game. It's so wonderful. I have so much fun with that game. The next indie game they showed was We Happy Few. That's the actual title. It gives me
touch myself a little.
It gives me BioShock vibes, like BioShock.
It's because Infinite. It's done by the same folks.
Oh, okay.
The guys that were of Irrational Games when that went away created this studio, or at least some of them created this studio, and started working on We Happy Few. So yes, your thinking is dead on. That was that's BioShock folks at work.
It's creepy, yet interesting. Like, this is the one that's just like, I want to know everything that's going on in this game.
Mm-hmm. Emotions are all supplied via drugs.
Yes. Gwent, this is from CD Projekt. It's coming out in September of 2016. I do have The Witcher 3 for Xbox One, and I haven't played their card game. But like you said, Larry, this one looks like this is going to be outdo the Elder Scrolls Legend. And it looks kind of fun. It looks very interesting.
Oh, yeah. They came up with a very unique spin on the card game aspect. And I think that's what drew a lot of attention to that game and made it so likable by everyone that was playing The Witcher, where it really was its own reason for buying that game. Not to say that The Witcher wasn't a reason enough, because The Witcher was very good.
Yeah.
Witcher 3 was great. But Gwent on top of it was like this super fucking awesome icing on the cake. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
I can't say much because I haven't played that portion yet of. I gotta really get into The Witcher 3. It's so deep and it's so good. I'm really enjoying that game. Tekken 7 is coming early 2017. In this trailer, they show Akuma and Kazumi. Heihachi. And at first, I thought it was Tekken versus Street Fighter. I'm like, Microsoft.
I know.
Oh, trust me. I thought Microsoft snagged the exclusive from that because of how messed up Street Fighter 5 was for Sony. I thought Microsoft snagged it, and then it was just like, no, it's Tekken 7. I'm like, wait, what?
Mm-hmm.
That's would have been a big slap to Sony if that happened.
Yeah. It's probably not going to happen. But no, Tekken 7 looks good. I like Tekken. Tekken's a fun one for me. Tekken's one of...
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I prefer Soul Calibur and Soul Edge.
Mm.
The first Soul Edge / Soul Calibur, and Soul Calibur 2 on GameCube. Everything else could just fall to the wayside.
I'm with you. I stopped with Soul Calibur after 2 because I figured at this point, especially once after 3, so 4 was the first one on 360 and PS3. I thought, okay, we're advanced enough now. This is a fighting game with sharp, pointy fucking weapons. If I can't get a Soul Calibur game where dismemberment is a functional gameplay mechanic, I'm done until they fix that. But Tekken I'll go back to because Tekken's fun.
Yeah,
I like Tekken. And one of the things that got me even deeper into Tekken was one of my old bosses. I learned from him, turn the music off. Tekken is very much a rhythm game. Every character has their own rhythm.
Yes.
And being able to hear that beat when you're connecting helps, So it's like he would always turn the music off, and he finally told me why. I'm like, I hear it now, and it makes a lot of fucking sense, and it really does help. But it's fun for that. I like that fact. So.
Yeah, so Dead Rising 4 is coming holiday 2016. Frank West is back in the game, and it feels like it's supposed to be Die Hard meet zombies because they're playing Christmas music, and he's on a motorcycle. And he has other things, and that's about all I can say. I have Dead Rising 3. I got Dead Rising 2 for PS3, and I've never played the first Dead Rising. So, no, I have Dead Rising, the first one on Wii.
I like the series. It's not flawless by any stretch of the imagination. They've got some problems here and there, and it's not the end all be all of zombie games, but it is a lot of fucking fun just for the pure ridiculousness of it.
Yes.
I can appreciate that. And I'm almost fucking certain in that preview, I swear I saw the suit from Shadow Complex in there. I could be wrong, but that's what it looked like.
I'll have to watch it. I'm gonna have to look at it again because I'm gonna have to rewatch it. Moving on from that, Scalebound from Platinum Games is coming early.
Looks cool as shit.
He looks like Dante almost from Devil May Cry for some unknown reason, but it's not combo heavy fast like I thought it would be.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's a definite.
What it is heavy on is his mouth, and that was annoying.
Oh yeah,
I did not like hearing him talk. I'm like, dude, you talk too damn much.
Trying to be all bro-ish and stuff, or whatever. But
I
love
know
the dragon was nice. I love that.
Yeah, the gameplay looks great. The game itself looks fantastic. It's just his constant little quips in there were driving me nuts.
After that, Sea of Thieves came out by Rare.
It doesn't look bad. I just don't know that I'm interested.
Same. Moving on. I guess I don't got nothing else to say about that. State of Decay 2, they did a trailer. That'll be out 2017. I didn't play the first one, so it's a zombie game.
I'm kind of excited about this. I liked the first one. First one had some problems, but I enjoyed it, and I got my money's worth out of it. I'm kind of totally jazzed for State of Decay 2.
The last game they showed before they got into kind of their last announcement was Halo Wars 2. It's a week-long beta. I haven't played the first Halo Wars, so I'll probably try the beta to see it, give more insight about it. But other than that, thoughts?
First of all, credit to 343 for picking it up and doing another Halo Wars. I will say I was not expecting it. It was a neat surprise. I've got some friends that were really big into it. Halo Wars was one of the few RTSs that really did a great job of figuring out how to make that genre work on a console. And, I'm kind of excited to see what they do with it from here. I'm glad that they didn't let it just die after the first one. It's nice to hear there was enough interest that they'll do a second one. So, more power to them. Like, cool beans. So,
and
I feel like they were probably trying to wash the taste of Halo 5 out of everyone's mouth just a little bit. Because frankly, I just don't feel like Halo 5 delivered comparatively versus the other 4 games in the series, especially coming off of Halo 4. 4 I loved and adored. I was like, oh, this was great. That 4 was my favorite hands down, and I didn't even bother with 5 because from everything I saw in it, it just gave me nothing of what I actually wanted out of the game. So I skipped it entirely, but I can't possibly be the only one who that happened for at this point. So my guess is they're trying to quietly, wash the taste of Halo 5 out of people's mouths because I don't think it did as well for them as they had hoped it was going to.
I need to buy both of them, the Halo Master Chief Collection and Halo 5, just to, get a better feel of it.
Right.
Then the last thing they announced was Project Scorpio.
Was not the last thing, but I'll tell you why in a minute.
It's got 6 teraflops, whatever that is. I don't know if it's a new console or what it is, but they didn't show no picture. They just had people come on to talk about it, and I know it got 4K display, and it's a system strong enough to do for VR. So maybe Oculus Rift and HoloLens. That's all I could say. I don't know pretty much anything else. And that that Xbox One, Xbox S, and Project Scorpio, all of them will be interchangeable, and all of them will work together.
I've got kind of a feeling of what I think Microsoft is trying to do with this, and it's just a hunch. But I think that they've realized that we've hit the point of, such minimal incremental improvements, console and graphics wise, that I think what they're doing is they're trying to steer away from the console generational thing that we're so very used to, where you get a console and it runs for a number of years and then they announce their new console. I think what they're doing is they're creating a generational platform instead, where, as new technology happens to come out, they go, okay, instead of alienating everyone that, just bought our latest system, what we'll do is we'll put out a new unit with more horsepower, that's more up to date for those that really want the bleeding edge, and here's I think a big important distinction to make between the Xbox One S and this Project Scorpio is that Xbox One S will be able to display in 4K. Scorpio is something that's going to be able to render in 4K.
Okay.
So instead of upscaling, it's actually native. And it's not a bad idea, honestly. It's kind of like saying if you've got the hardware setup or the home entertainment setup at home that's absolutely bleeding edge, and you want something that's gonna show your stuff bleeding edge that way too, then we will provide this incremental update that you can have, but we're not going to stop supporting the other things that we've already got out. It's one big universal thing, but it's a way to kind of be able to incrementally keep up with changes in TV and high def tech and all that. It's not the worst idea I've heard. I think it will have some problems, but it's not the worst idea I've heard.
Now, what was the one thing that I forgot? Can you tell us?
Well, I won't say you forgot it. It kind of slipped in under the radar because they didn't have it at their show, but Microsoft did announce, announce is maybe the wrong word, but they did talk about Phantom Dust, which made me very, very happy.
Yes, I just read that it's going to be
Phantom Dust is not dead.
It's going to be a remaster, but not a reboot.
Frankly, I'm okay with that. Phantom Dust remaster, it's been, since the original Xbox. It's over a console generation old at this point. And on top of that, Phantom Dust on the Xbox was fucking awesome. Don't mess with greatness. It's already great. Just pretty it up, put it on a live server again where I can play with other people, and let me have at it, because that's one of the biggest things I missed about that game. I loved playing that game online. I played that online with other people, and the fact that I still love playing that game, but that server is dead and gone, and it makes me sad. Because that was the only way you could get certain cards and achievements was by playing, well, not achievements, but there were certain cards that you couldn't get unless you were playing online. And so, those are kind of locked forever now, which is tragic.
And I know I didn't mention the Division for the Xbox One, even though they was in the conference. I decided to say that for
stupid.
I decided to save it for Ubisoft's conference, which we're going to talk now. They started it off. They're celebrating 30 years in the gaming business. They started off with a Just Dance 2017 number. They didn't show any kind of gameplay graphics. But they had people come out and dance. And when Aisha Tyler came out, she did announce that it's coming up to all the platforms, and it was the only third-party game that we know of now that's coming to the NX next year. And nothing else that was mentioned throughout all conferences talked about NX.
Yeah, talk about a series I so don't care about.
Yeah. So I mean that was expected because it's Just Dance. They showed off Ghost Recon Wildlands, which is coming out March 7th, 2017. It's the summer version of The Division. What else do you want? That's all I can say. After that, or do you guys have anything to say, or just move on?
No, I'm gonna freely admit that I only caught bits and pieces of the Ubisoft conference, so my input is not as consistent here. So,
Okay. Well, South Park: The Fractured Butthole is coming out December 6th. They brought out the creators. They talked about the game. They got cussing in it, and it's the South Park game. So moving on from that, I know particular MVC.
no. I'm gonna talk about that for a second
Okay.
because I'm very excited for this game.
Oh,
This was a
before you go, fellow MVC guy Anthony Cantu was very happy about this announcement and seeing gameplay. So just want to give him a shout out because he was very happy. That's all he really wanted from the Ubisoft conference. Okay, go ahead.
And he fucking should be, because South Park Stick of Truth was awesome, and that was an RPG that, it wasn't strictly turn based per se, but it had enough of that reminiscent feel to it. But man, did that game ever capture the essence of that show perfectly. And it was stupid, and it was funny, and it was offensive, and it played really well. It was South Park obnoxiousness skinned on top of a really good role-playing game. And I'm extremely excited for the sequel. I'm so glad that game did well enough that they're making another one. Because, man, that game had a bitch of a time making it out, getting through development, because it changed hands a few times, if I recall, and it had some troubled development.
Yes.
So I'm so glad to see that finally that did well enough that it merits a sequel. And I do remember the unveil for the sequel last year, and I almost fell out of my chair laughing when I heard the title. I was like, oh, it's so good. The Fractured Butthole. So,
Yes.
But yeah, I'm excited for that shit. That stuff makes me happy.
Yep. Moving on from that, they brought out The Division. They talked about the expansion.
Ooh.
Underground is going to be on Xbox One and PC on June 28th. And then PlayStation 4 owners begin on August 2nd. Because of that 30th anniversary, you get 3 exclusive outfits, Rainbow Six, Ghost Recon Wildlands, and Splinter Cell. And they're also introducing Survival to it. So that's the updates that they have for The Division.
So don't care about The Division. It looks like a great idea at the outset that just didn't know how to deliver, and so anything pertaining to The Division at this point I've kind of already mentally written off.
And well, moving on, Eagle Flight VR is coming out this fall for supporting VR systems or platforms, I should say. And it's more of a capture the flag kind of game. They did have like around 6 or 8 people out. No, 6 people out playing the game because it's a 303. And that's all it is. It's nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on from that, LeVar Burton and people from different versions of Star Trek TV series. They introduced Star Trek Bridge Crew, which is coming out this fall. And then
they should have introduced Reading Rainbow, the game.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That should have been the VR game. You just read my mind because I put they should have made Reading Rainbow VR. I'm like, that would have been cool. And then LeVar Burton came out, and him and Aisha Tyler talked and laughed. And it was odd because they acted like, wow, I can't believe these are video games. And I'm just like, where the heck have you been at for the past years? So,
right.
you play as the crew on the ship, and it looks basic as ever. But I guess if people are into it, that's cool. Moving on for that,
it still amazes me that Star Trek Online is going still. I'd be curious to see what their user base looks like. Really, I don't know anybody that plays it. I'm like, who's playing it? Credit for getting people to play it. I love me some Star Trek, I do, but I'm like, who is playing this? Because nobody talks about playing this. Nobody says, yeah, dude, I can't wait to get off of work, go home, play some Star Trek Online. I don't know. It's weird. It's like JAG. JAG for a while, there was like the #1 rated TV show on television, but you're like, who the fuck watches this? Because I don't know anybody that watches JAG.
Well, JAG used to be a very old show.
So, but anyways, moving on.
Yep, moving on from that. They show For Honor coming out February 14th of 2017. And this is between Vikings, Samurai, and Knights, I believe. I think they're that's the way that they showed it. And they kind of give what the story was about the game. And they said it takes place over 1,000 years of war. And where they get to a point where there should be peace. One character gets shot by arrow, and then it continues. And it seems that a woman is starting everything. It looks like Rise with directional pad at some points. It looks okay. I will play Samurai, but I don't know.
This is one that I didn't get to see the preview for, unfortunately, but it sounds interesting, and I'm kind of now excited to go check it out. It sounds intriguing.
Yeah, check it out. The next indie game that they showed was Grow Up, the sequel to Grow Home.
Grow Home?
Yeah, so Bud is back. That's all I can say. I didn't play Grow Home, so I don't know.
I didn't either. But it looked interesting. Like, I could probably get into this.
Trials of the Blood Dragon is out now. These two guys who came out look like some wrestlers, and when you see them, you would be like, "What the heck?" The way that they came out, we didn't know what was going on. We were just like, "What the world is this crazy mess?" Oh, and just to make sure everybody know, Beyond Good and Evil 2 did not get announced. They didn't show it or anything.
They did say something about it still kind of working in the background, and that it wasn't just Ubisoft holding it up at this point, but that Michelle Ansel is working on something else at the same time, and it's kind of put Beyond Good and Evil 2 on the back burner for them. So they're kind of trying to go, it's not all our fault, please don't hate us, but they did say that it's not dead and gone. It's just, it kind of became a back burner project at the moment.
And then they talked about the Assassin's Creed movie that's coming out in December, and they're also doing a Watch Dogs movie.
Why?
I don't know. And then they went into Watch Dogs 2, which is coming out November 15th. They showed gameplay for it, and it takes place in San Francisco, and it's a black character.
Well, I guess it's a thing. It's more of, more of that.
And the last game they showed was Steep, which is like a snowboarding game, which comes out in December of this year.
I did not get to see the trailer for this, and I do dearly love some SSX, and I feel like I need to check out this trailer because it might help scratch that itch a little bit for me too. So I'm going to need to peek at that in the next day or two.
Yeah, check it out. My overall for this, I gave it a C-. It's Ubisoft. Nothing wowed me.
I can't really judge. I didn't see enough of it, and I'll probably go back and rewatch the whole thing in its entirety at some point this week. But there's a couple things that I'm excited for. But there's some other things that I'm just like, don't care. And a handful of things I haven't actually gotten to see yet. So I'm reserving judgment.
Okay. And we're going to talk about the last conference, which was Sony. They started out with the director who does the music of God of War, and then they went into their conference. The first game that they showed was God of War, with Kratos being a little bit older. He has the beard, and his red tattoos that's on his body kind of faded out. It looks like he has a son in this game.
He does. Not only does he look older and bearded, but you can tell like he's not quite as ripped either. He's kind of got like that old man ripped thing going on, and it looks good. It does. It looks really good. They give you enough in the exposition to see that he appeared to possibly have even married again post events of God of War 3. Was with someone long enough that had a son and raised him to, it looks like maybe early, maybe like 10 or 12, maybe even 13, 14 years old at that point. But the demo looked really cool, taking him out to say you're going to become a man now. You are going to hunt and provide for this family, right, which appears to be just him and his son at this point. It looks like, mom is gone and out of the picture for whatever reason. And I kind of like the fact that they didn't really dwell on it, because it implies to me that, maybe he got to have that little slice of happiness, and that, she wasn't taken away from him by some asshole deity, right, for double crossing. He actually got to, kind of live the life again, of a family man. So,
yeah, the gameplay style is kind of like Resident Evil and like the Order 1886. So, it doesn't have that action-packed kind of style to it. He don't even has his chains. He in this demo he just pretty much just uses an axe. And his hands. Next thing that they showed after that was Days Gone, which they also ended the show with the same game. They showed the gameplay at the end, but they did an announced trailer for it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I've not gotten to watch much of any of the Sony conference beyond the God of War preview, just due to work, kid, and hospital things going on. So, which I was telling Ed at the before we started, I said, what have I been playing? I've been playing the Wilford Brimley at home game. So I found out yesterday that I got to beat us, but so yeah, that kind of took up a whole lot of my time in the last day or so. So,
following that, my top rated game for Sony on my must-have list of 2016, The Last Guardian, is coming out October 25th. I cannot wait. I'm so happy.
Finally took long enough.
Yes.
Oh my God.
All I wanted was a release date, and they looked like they had 2 bird dogs in it, or 2 dogs in it, and this is the game that I want from the whole conference, from Sony. Moving on from that, Horizon Red Dawn got a new gameplay trailer, which looks really good. That's coming out February 28th, 2017.
Oh, you mean Horizon Zero Dawn?
Zero Dawn. I'm sorry. I keep saying Red Dawn, and I got it down as Red Dawn on my notes. Oops.
That game looks cool as shit. I want to play the fuck out of that game.
I'm so iffy about the story. I don't know about the story.
I'm interested as shit. So,
another game that became interesting. Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm buying Horizon Zero Dawn. That's another game that I'm getting. Like that and Persona 5, I'm getting in February.
Yeah, you're on your own on the Persona thing.
Yeah. Well, I have to have both games done before March because that's when Zelda Breath of the Wild comes out, and we'll talk a little about that later. Detroit Become Human is the next game by Quantum Dreams, and this game looks very interesting. It when I seen it for PlayStation Experience last year, I was already hooked by the trailer. But this game looked like it's like kind of a murder mystery kind of game. It reminds me a little bit of Snatcher for some unknown reason, and I cannot wait to get this game.
I'll have to take a look at that when I get an opportunity here this week.
Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, a demo is available, and it will have PSVR experience that you could do, which they talked about October 13th for $399 for the PSVR. Yeah, the Resident Evil. I was
kind of wondering when they were going to get around to putting out a new mainline Resident Evil title.
Well, it doesn't look like it
been a while.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's dealing with zombies. It really looks like a Silent Hill kind of game. It's very interesting.
It's so weird.
The next thing they introduced kind of like for PSVR was Farpoint, which is like a space game. After that, they also talked about Batman Arkham VR in this year for October 2016. Final Fantasy 15 will have a VR experience attached to it. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare is November 14th. They're remastering Crash Bandicoot, the first of the three, and Skylanders. Crash Bandicoot's going to be in that one for Skylanders Imaginators, and he'll also be on the Wii U version. So.
I will say I'm excited for the news that snuck out that not only is, Crash showing up in Skylanders, but they are doing a remaster of the first three Crash Bandicoot games from the original PlayStation, because those were fucking great. I want those again.
I 100%ed 1 and 2 and 3. I did each game for 3 days and got everything for them, so I don't need it.
It'd be nice to revisit again.
I know Batman Arkham VR, they had the Joker doing the voiceover for it. It's really creepy, but it's really good. Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, they just show like them extra on space shooting, and you're the captain, and yeah.
Oh God.
So,
we just go with Call of Duty infinitely uninterested.
Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens was shown. They got their own trailer. EA and Dyson and Creton, or there's a they was talking about the new Star Wars game for PlayStation 4. Hideo Kojima comes out. He presents Death Stranding with Norman Reedus, who also printed out on his Instagram a picture of Kojima drinking a cup that says Konami's Tears. That was like a really shady picture, but it's so funny. They just they showed him naked and some music, and he talked, and it seemed like it's going to be a psychological kind of thriller horror game. Who knows? And Insomniac is doing Spider-Man for PS4. And they, like I said, they ended with Days Gone gameplay, which is pretty much a zombie game.
What else did Sony have, or was that the tail end of their show?
That was it.
That was it. All right, so we're into the elephant in the room here.
Well,
so the one Nintendo game.
Before we get into that, I have to give actually Microsoft and Sony got an A-, and Ubisoft got a C-. But that's my ratings for it.
Like I said, Microsoft, I think, had a fairly solid, well-together show. I don't know if I would give it an A rating, but not bad. Maybe in the B range. Somewhere in the B range. I'll throw that down for Microsoft. I enjoyed their show. I just wasn't blown away by anything.
Well, compared to other years, they did a good job. And Sony...
This is true.
Yeah. And Sony kept it under an hour, didn't really have that many presenters. Played some great music, and they just connected all the trailers. So that's why I gave them an A minus. Like both companies, I got games on my list that I want to have. So that's why.
That's always a good place to start.
So before we get to the big elephant in the room, Pokemon Sun and Moon, they started off. They did 45 minutes of that presentation. I'm already sold on Pokemon. I can't wait for that game to come out. They talked to the developers and one of the developers and director who's now doing the Pokemon Sun and Moon. He was on the live stream and he talked about the game. But the latest, the Legend of Zelda trailer was shown first, and then they live streamed all gameplay throughout the week. But the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, they call it an open air adventure. That's what Numa calls it.
I call it Zelda the Camping Simulator.
The game is gorgeous. It's my game of E3. Beautiful from start to end. Like that delay that Anuma announced was really put to use, and I can't wait to play this game. I kind of made a comment that I will rock Link's underwear, like his boxer briefs. He's going to be able to have armor, use different weapons, meet characters. They did say there will be towns that you can go into, but for the E3 purpose, there was just things that section off that you just couldn't go to just yet. And they was only showcasing like one area of the game, and the map looks huge. They said it's 12 times bigger than Twilight Princess. So you have to go watch the live streams and you have to go watch the trailer to really understand. But thoughts, because I can't really speak nothing else about this game. It was just, like I said, my game at E3.
I watched about the first half hour of the live stream is all I've gotten to see so far. I'm looking forward to going back and checking out more and seeing what else they showed. It looks pretty as all get out. I enjoy the fact they're going back to kind of that Skyward Sword art style. I liked it. I'm happy to see more of it. I think part of my problem is I just don't know what it's about yet. You know, at this point, you know, we are less than a year away from it coming out, and you know, we've known about it for almost a year and a half, if I remember right, maybe two. And, you know, I don't know anything about what it's about. I will say I was very, not necessarily surprised, but curious to hear that female voice in the game. You know, from what I've seen so far, that might be the only voice acting in there, but I was kind of surprised to see it at all. You know, it looks well put together. It has a certain Shadow of the Colossus feel almost in this big world, and you know, the climbing and the stamina and all that, which, you know, they touched on some of the stamina stuff with Skyward Sword as well, but I think I need to know more of what it's about. You know, I'm all excited for the new things that they're doing and they're trying, but I want to know if the story is really going to hook me, though.
I think
that's my big concern, truthfully.
I think it will. I know they focus more about the adventuring, and I kind of like how Numa, he said, because he's from the country and he was always around rocks and stuff, and he said if he had Link's ability to climb, he would probably enjoy it better. He's just like, he loves city life better than the country life. And Anuma was just completely funny. He was really cool. Bill Trinen did some cool stuff. It's a huge game. You wake up and you can start exploring the world. I'm not really worried about story. I think story will be there. You know, of course, Hyrule is in trouble, and Ganon is in the game. They did show that part. but I don't know how Ganon looks. So it's very open, and I cannot wait for this game. It's Persona 5 and Zelda Breath of the Wild are my top games for 2017, but Breath of the Wild is just like my most anticipated game, probably for not all time, but for the next couple of years. Well, not couple of years, until next year, I should say.
Here's what I want to know. Having seen what you've seen of Breath of the Wild, do you think there's maybe any clues in what we've seen as to what NX might be all about, knowing that this game is going to be on NX?
They say it's going to be the same thing, but I don't know anything. I don't know graphical details or anything. At this point in time, I'm lost like everybody else about NX because they didn't really mention it. So,
well, I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Yeah. Like I said, we didn't do the PC game, the Pokemon Sun and Moon, and Zelda Breath of the Wild was the 2 Nintendo games that they showed. They did announce some amiibos, which looks amazing. And also they're bringing out...
Oh, yes, they do.
Yeah. They're bringing out Waluigi and some other characters, like a new Rosalina is coming out. Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong, new versions of them. Because they announced Mario Party... Smash Course or something, or Star Course for
Stars,
for 3DS. That came out of nowhere, but they did announce that new game.
So.
And there's still more to come out. There were other games that weren't in the conference that they did announce, but I didn't get a chance to see them or write them down. But overall, that was E3. Larry, you already know my game to take away. Anything that was your game to take away?
Actually, I'm glad you asked that. And we had somebody on Facebook ask, what is the one game that we're really looking forward to, out of E3? And aside from Zelda Breath of the North Face jacket, sporting gear, I'm really jazzed for ReCore. I'm fucking excited for ReCore. Fee looks interesting, but man, after last year, I want more ReCore. I want to get my hands on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there were tons of it for me, but my most anticipated is Zelda. I just gotta have it. It just won me over from the trailer alone. And then seeing it in motion, I literally just gotta have this game because it's
somehow I feel like I know more about what's happening in ReCore than I do Zelda at this point, despite having seen more of Zelda, and it just and I will get there hype wise with Zelda. I will, but
I can answer your question about Zelda of learning about the story. Anuma did say that he didn't want to put no story details. And because he felt like that might take away, and he wants to keep everybody, focused more on what the gameplay and the execution and the work that they put in. And besides getting the story, he's like, the story parts is really cool and it's coming, but he just really wanted to show off what they actually been working on to bring. So a story for the game that he doesn't want to talk about just right now. In due time, he said he will talk about the story, but for right now, he's more focused on showing everybody what they've been working on, giving them updates and stuff that you could do in the game and how open it is.
Right. So, but yeah, I think that kind of wraps everything up.
Yes, and everybody, our Caramel, Kinesican, and Adrian Nieto couldn't make it, but hopefully we hear from him soon.
Homeboy was at the movies instead of rather being here with us.
But he had plans. He's living the life of a developer, and sometimes things happen. I do want to say our Smash episode will be happening soon. I'm actually going to push it back to next month because we have an awesome feature episode coming in. In about 2 weeks. Larry, would you want to talk about that?
Again, looking to do we're doing a theme episode, kind of going over a genre that has not been seeing a whole lot of love over the last few years. We're going to be talking it up all the way front to back, left to right on futuristic racers. So just to kind of give you the basics, the big ones to put you in the right mindset. F-Zero and Wipeout. There's some others in there too. That'll be coming up. Did we say next week?
In a couple of weeks, in about 2 more weeks.
It's whenever Eddie says it is.
Only reason is because Father's Day is this Sunday, and we won't have a show because our very own Larry Giver. Yeah, our very own Larry Giver will be celebrating his first Father's Day. Yay!
Yes, I will. So 2 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks. So we will see everybody on the 26th. We are doing a normal show, but July 2nd, I think that's the next Sunday. In 2 weeks, we will be doing the futuristic. So hopefully you guys will email the show, which you could do that at world11podcast@gmail.com. That's WORLD11@gmail.com. Oh, WORLD11podcast@gmail.com. And you can friend us and follow us on Facebook, World 101 Podcast. We would like to speak to you guys about gays. Like, we want to geek out and nerd about you guys. So look us up on Facebook and join us and have some good discussions with us. And maybe we could hear your pitch. So, with that, Larry, anything that you have to add?
No. It's late and I'm tired.
Okay. And you guys can follow me on Twitter at ThatRetrocode, ThatRetrocode. World 101 Podcast is on SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play. Just look up Optional Opinion, which is my other podcast, which you can also check out for E3 opinions from this week. And you guys subscribe, and you'll get Optional Opinion, and you'll get World 101 Podcast. And with that, everybody, we are out. See ya.
Good night.